This presentation will cover the basics of integration between ACIC Analytics activity detection software and Milestone Systems XProtect VMS. ACIC Analytics is a leading video analytics company celebrating its 10th year in business in 2014. The ACIC product offering is based on vertical, market-oriented software suites in the area of security, both video surveillance and wide area surveillance, marketing, and intelligent transportation systems, or ITS. Milestone is a global industry leader in open platform IP video management software, founded in 1998 and now operating as a standalone company in the Canon Group. Milestone technology is easy to manage, reliable, and proven in thousands of customer installations, providing flexible choices in both network hardware and integration with other systems. The integration of Milestone XProtect VMS and ACIC Video Analytics is a powerful combination that offers a high-quality solution for supervised and automated video surveillance. In order to proceed with the integration, you must have first installed the Milestone XProtect software. This step will not be covered in this presentation. There is an abundance of help available regarding XProtect installation on the Milestone website, www.milestonesys.com. For this presentation, we will assume that you have a correctly configured XProtect system with cameras installed on which you'll run the ACIC activity detection software. The ACIC integration will function with 5 versions of XProtect: Express, Professional, Enterprise, Expert, and Corporate. We'll begin by looking at Milestone's top-of-the-line XProtect Corporate VMS, and we'll note any differences with the other versions at the end of this presentation. After installing XProtect, we next need to obtain the ACIC software from the ACIC website at ACIC.eu. The software can be downloaded from the secure access area of the site with the username and password, which will be provided by ACIC. There are 2 components to the ACIC system which must be downloaded. The first component is the analytics engine itself. This comes in 2 forms, a dedicated server solution and a camera or edge-side solution. The server solution requires a simple or duo Xeon CPU with a minimum of 8 GB of RAM and 50 GB of free hard drive space. The operating system can be either OpenSUSE 11.3, SUSE Enterprise Server 11, or Red Hat Enterprise 6 or above. The camera solution runs on Axis cameras capable of running ArtPec 3 or 4 applications. The second component to download is the XProtect plugin, which permits the XProtect system to receive analytics events from ACIC and display overlay analytics information in the Smart Client. While not strictly a component of ACIC, Java 1.6 or higher is also required in order to configure the analytics engine through a browser for both the server and edge solutions. We'll look at the server solution first, then the edge solution. After installation on a Linux server, the ACIC General System Login page can be reached by entering the IP address of the server into a browser window. The default username and password combination is administrator and ACIC, ACIC, all in caps. After login, we will be presented with a number of page tabs. The first tab is always the System Setup tab, where we will add cameras to our server-side solution and also perform general server administration tasks. This is followed by the Activity Detection tab, where the analytics engine and output for individual cameras is configured. Clicking on the System Setup tab and then the System Configuration link will give us another login to the Server Administration page. The default username and password is the same, Administrator and ACIC, ACIC, all caps. Here we can reboot the system or change the network interface, for instance, from DHCP to a static IP address. Let's return to the System Setup tab where we can add cameras. To add cameras, we go to the System Setup tab and then click on the camera icon. We must select the video stream number that we want to associate with this camera. In this case, we will use the first stream of our 4 available licenses. Next, we specify the video source, which is a network stream, and in the case of the Milestone integration, specify that it is coming from a Milestone XProtect system. We select our XProtect system type, in this case corporate, our protocol, which is MIP or Milestone Integration Platform, enter the IP address of the management server, and the appropriate system username and password. After hitting the refresh icon, we will be presented with a list of all the available camera streams in the system from which to choose. These cameras must have been previously added to the XProtect system. Hit Apply. One note to remember, the MIP uses host names in place of IP addresses, so you must be sure to enter the host name in the ACIC administration page, which we saw earlier. We are now ready to configure our camera analytics. On the Activity Detection tab, we can configure the outputs that will generate for the detected video stream events and the video stream events themselves. We'll configure the outputs later on, but we'll start by configuring the video events. This is done in the Configuration tab. Clicking on Configuration will bring up a new browser window. Remember that this section will only function if you have Java 1.6 or higher installed. Here we can set the analytics context for the video stream. We can designate things such as dimensions, regions of interest, crossing lines, object size and speeds, and other configurations. The first step is to set the analytics context, or dimensions. We need to enter 2 horizontal or ground elements and 2 vertical elements. These measurements will allow the analytics engine to calculate lengths and dimensions in 3D. Once we've set up the analytics context so that the analytics engine understands the dimensions of the scene, we now have to specify the places and things that we're interested in. For example, we can create a region of interest or a crossing line in either 1 or 2 directions, or multiple crossing lines. Next, we have to specify what objects we are interested in. Are we interested in a suitcase-sized object being left in the activity zone, or a person-sized object crossing a line? Here we would create a person object for our activity detection rule. The last step is to bring it all together in our detection rules. Here we will specify what type of activity or behavior we are tracking, where, and by what type of object. We will create a detection rule which looks for the presence of a person, otherwise known as Object Class 1, in Region 1, which we created earlier. We can optionally give the rule a description name and an external event name. The external event name will be used if triggering through an event server in XProtect. If this field is left blank, default names will be used. Finally, we can adjust other settings, such as sensitivity, or overlay choices. We're now done with the analytics server side. Of course, there are many options, far too many to cover here, for more complex situations, but basic rules can be configured in a few minutes per camera. You'll find completed documentation for all objects, activities, rules, regions, etc. on the ACIC website. Setting up the Edge solution is very similar to the server solution, although it works only on one video stream, that of the camera on which it is installed. The Analytics application runs on ACIC ARTPEC 3 and 4 capable cameras, although there are some limitations on some models. See the ACIC website for details. Start by entering the camera's web interface. The application needs a place to store data, which can be either on a local SD card or on network storage. Next, the application must be uploaded and installed on the camera. Finally, make sure that the license is uploaded and valid. Afterwards, we can configure the analytics itself, which we can see is exactly the same as for the server solution, with context information, activity regions, crossing lines, and detection rules. You'll notice that there is no outputs page like we saw in the server solution. This means that events can only be passed through the XProtect event server and will use the default ACIC event names or that designated in the optional external event name field. There is minimal configuration needed on the Milestone side for the ACIC Analytics solution. First, install the ACIC plugin on the XProtect server. There is only one plugin, which will be installed on both the server and the Smart Client machine, but be sure to select the correct 32 or 64-bit version. After installation, you should see an ACIC plugin in the MIP plugins section of the Management Client or Management application. Enter the ACIC server IP address if you want events passed automatically through the XProtect event server, remembering that corporate can also receive user-defined events directly. Also remember to activate events under Tools, Options, and then Analytic Events. Since we're using XProtect Corporate, we'll next create some user-defined events and then add them to our corporate rules system. First, let's create two events. We'll call them ACIC Person in Area 1 and ACIC Person Crossing Line 1. Next, we'll create a rule called ACIC Rule for Person in Area 1. This will be a simple rule just setting a bookmark on the video stream, but remember that we could take advantage of the power of the whole rule system, changing camera settings, sending notifications, popping up videos in a smart wall or matrix, turning relays on and off, and so forth. We'll also use the event to create a simple alarm, which we'll be able to view in the Smart Client. Now that we've created the events in the XProtect server, we return to the ACIC output page to link them with the detection rules that we set up earlier on the ACIC Analytics server. Click on the Outputs icon and scroll down to the Milestone XProtect section. Activate the outputs, select the events type from the ACIC detection rules, and finally select the user-defined event for XProtect. The list should be pre-populated with the events that we created in XProtect Corporate. We've now set up the analytics within the ACIC server and linked them to events within XProtect Corporate. We could now see rules and alarms triggered within XProtect by ACIC Analytics events. But if we want to see analytics information overlaid on the video stream, showing us objects, zones, and areas being tracked by the ACIC Analytics engine, we have to additionally install the ACIC plugin on the Smart Client machine. To do this, we just need to click on the appropriate installation file, either 32 or 64-bit, after which we'll be able to see the video overlay information and adjust properties under the MIP plugins section. We are now ready to demonstrate the ACIC Analytics integration. In our scenario, we're tracking activity in a sensitive area at the back of the room. We're also tracking movement of a person across a line, but only in the direction leaving the video at the bottom of the screen. We're displaying the context and calibration information, the zone and lines we're monitoring, the objects we're tracking, as well as the rule status. In live mode, we see a person enter the video from the bottom of the screen, crossing the line, but in a different direction than that we're tracking, so there is no positive event detection. He walks to the area we're monitoring, stopping to do something, in this case swapping a camera that he's carrying for one already in the area, thereby triggering the activity detection rule. He then exits in roughly the same way he came, crossing the same line as before, but in the opposite direction, thereby triggering the line crossing detection. We can see the same tracking and context information through the overlays in the playback mode. We see that a bookmark was created according to the rule that we created on the XProtect server. We can also see that an alarm was generated as defined in the XProtect configuration with overlay information in the Alarm tab. Note that the overlay information is displayed in both live and playback modes. Overlays can be toggled on or off for individual video streams or for all cameras at the same time. As we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the ACIC activity detection integration works on 5 versions of XProtect: Express, Professional, Enterprise, Expert, and Corporate. Expert and Corporate belong to the Advanced family of XProtect products. The ACIC activity detection integration for these 2 products is identical. Express, Professional, and Enterprise belong to the Professional family of VMS products. The integration for these products is largely the same as for corporate, with a few small differences which we will show now. Start by installing XProtect normally. We're installing Enterprise, but the procedure would be the same for Express or Professional. After installation of XProtect, we need to install the ACIC plugin. For professional products, pick the 32-bit plugin for both the 32 and 64-bit Windows versions. Afterwards, we see the ACIC plugin in the MIPS plugins section. Add the ACIC server address and activate analytic events from this server, keeping in mind that Enterprise doesn't support user-defined events, and therefore events are triggered only through the XProtect event server. Activate analytic events in Options. Next, create an event which we can use in alarms and as triggers for actions such as moving a PTZ camera. Remember that the name has to either follow the ACIC default scheme, which can be found in the ACIC documentation, or be entered in the external name field of the detection rules on the ACIC server. We'll see that again in a minute. The last step is to create a basic user with administrative privileges, which will be used when adding camera streams to the ACIC server. On the ACIC side, as with corporate, we begin by adding camera streams. The process is the same in that we select a network stream, specifying that it is coming from an XProtect system of the enterprise variety using the MIP protocol with the given IP address, but in this case the username and password have to be the basic user account which we created earlier in XProtect. Camera configuration for context, regions, objects, and rules is exactly the same in Enterprise as it is in Corporate. Keep in mind that the external event name is found under the detection rules. If we did not want to use the default ACIC event names, we would enter our event name here, which would have to match that which we created earlier on the XProtect side. Thank you for watching this brief recap of the Milestone ACIC Analytics integration. Our intention has been to give you a small taste of the ease of setup and capabilities of the ACIC solution. Should you want more information, please visit the Milestone and ACIC websites at www.milestonesys.com and www.asic.eu respectively, or talk to your Milestone Regional Sales Representative. Thank you.